I mean, I grew up playing soccer. I've been thinking about that now because my son is 2 and he's a little ball, and I'm like, dang, he's got kind of nice little first touch there. And I've been asking around, and people were like, he's too young, right?
Don't specialize too soon.
I know.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Teaming Up with Becky Sauerbrunn, brought to you by the Women's Game. I'm Becky, and this is a show where we meet people in and around the game of soccer, the leaders, the thinkers, the doers, and connect with who they are by talking about what they love and what they nerd out on. Today on the pod, we are teaming up with NFL Live analyst, ESPN senior writer, podcast host, mom, crossword aficionado, and Etch-a-Sketch master artist, Mina KIMES. Mina is one of the coolest people ever. Her perceptive football analysis, mixed with her charm and intellect, sets her apart from anyone else in her field right now. Whether on the road with ESPN for Monday Night Football or at home with sidekick Lenny the dog, recording her podcast, Mina never fails to create memorable moments for an audience that always has an appetite for her distinctive takes. I'm hoping you've all seen the movie Step Brothers, that scene where Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly realize they have a lot in common, and it culminates in Will's character asking, "Did we just become best friends?" Well, I didn't want to scare Mina with my exuberance, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that scene was running through my mind throughout this conversation. But I think that Mina's relatability is her superpower. We'll talk about an essay she wrote that changed the trajectory of her career and how it just resonated with people who have a connection with someone, whether it be through sport or science or trivia or whatever. It's truly a gift what she's able to do through her various mediums. Enjoy my conversation with Mina. Mina KIMES, welcome to Teaming Up. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad that you could find the time with the NFL season literally about to start.
No, excited to be here. We were chatting before the show, but it's kind of the calm before the storm at the moment, right before the football season begins, and I'm relishing these final moments of peace.
I actually have some questions for you because you are a broadcast vet and I'm a rookie. And I just finished up my first year covering US Women's National Team friendlies, where I'm on TV for the pregame, the halftime, the postgame shows. And I have this constant worry that I'm going to say something live, unintentionally, of course, that is going to get me canceled. And I'm just kind of wondering, does that feeling ever go away? Or is that something that I will be constantly replaying until just the end of time?
Ooh, every now and then I have a weird visions of myself saying something it's actually never intentional. It's what if I misspoke?
Exactly.
And instead of saying, oh, the word I meant, I said something bad or something sexual, and then it went viral.
Yes.
So that sometimes goes through my mind. The thing that used to occupy a lot of my concern is just getting stuff wrong, because I get so much backlash if I make kind of just mistakes. But something that was kind of instrumental for me in becoming a better broadcaster was learning to let that go, because I was so worried about being perfect early in my television career that it kind of prevented me from being good and from being myself. And now when I make a mistake, I just, brush it off a lot easier than I did earlier.
Are you one of those people that actually enjoys being in front of the camera? Do you get energy from it? I feel like for me, I call it snowmanning, where at the end of the day, I kind of just melt into my bed.
I get energy from being part of a team on camera. And this is something that I think is true for conversations I have, because I mostly work with former football players. And, when they retire, I'm sure you have a lot of feelings about this as well. It's one of the things they really miss is just being part of a team, and that feeling you get when there's a sense of collaboration and shared goals, and you're working together and you're both experiencing something that nobody outside the locker room or the field just understands. And I think you kind of replicate that if you're part of a team on camera, especially for me, being part of a team that I've been now a member of for 6 years with NFL Live. The moments that give me energy are when we're on camera and I can tell something good is happening, whether it's the jokes or the riffs, or we're having an animated discussion, and then I walk off and I feel wow, I almost want to high five everybody or something.
Great television.
Yeah, so it's kind of the closest you get to that feeling, versus just me being on camera. I don't feel any kind of particular way about. I mean, for the most part too, I've kind of just stopped feeling like I am on camera, I guess, just because I've just been doing it for so long now.
Yeah, that's what I hear. The more reps, the more comfortable you get with it all.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, I used to be so nervous.
Yeah, I'm still in that phase. So before we get into your story, there's one thing I want to bring up right from the beginning. This is a soccer podcast after all, and I absolutely love your mom's and brother's dedication to Tottenham. And I would love for you to tell us how they came to be such diehard Spurs fans.
So I think I should ask them for their origin story. I think it was because of Heung-min's son. So my mom is Korean. Her name is Sunmin KIMES. She is like a very intense poster. She posts constantly. This is all she does. I mean, she's retired. They live in Nashville. All she does is watch soccer, like from like 5 a.m. or whenever the games are on. She watches everything too, like all international leagues, US, all of it. And she just became, like a lot of Koreans, she's very proud of any Korean who kind of rises on the international stage. So I think, I don't want to misrepresent them because maybe they were fans before, but I know that that's when that really intensified her passion for the team. They, and a desire to like go there and see them and do all of that. She is really, really obsessive about it though. Like she's like a major super fan, so much so that he just signed with LAFC. She immediately was like, okay, I'm gonna get on the plane, can I come see him? And I was like, Mom, I have a 2-year-old child. You have flown out here to see him in 6 months or what's up with that? No, I'm just kidding. She's a great grandma. But yeah, she really, really it feels a lot of sense of national pride about him.
I saw her tweet trolling you, telling you to talk about Sunday on ESPN's Pardon the Interruption. I have to know, when Sun made the move to LAFC, what did the family group chat look like?
A lot of people asking me if I can get the ticket hookup because I've gone to some games there before. And they're great. They're a great organization. They were pumped. As a lot of people in LA are, by the way. And like, we have such a large Korean American population here in Los Angeles, and you're already feeling that excitement. It kind of reminds me of, I mentioned this to my friend Dave the other day, Chan-ho Park, like with the Dodgers, was such a big deal for Korean Americans. And it's obviously amplified because of just where we are in Los Angeles.
Has the fandom seeped into you at all? Are you also a Spurs fan?
I try to kind of keep general tabs because it seems to affect their emotional well-being so much. Like when they finally got some hardware recently, I watched a couple of the matches. I grew up playing soccer. We all did, which is another thing. So my mom was like a soccer mom, right? Like my brother and I both played for like travel soccer all through, through high school and whatnot. She was very locked in on going to all of our games and if we had trainers and things like that. But I have not. It's hard for me to follow any sports super closely outside of football because it's such a year-round job for me now. But I just kind of dip in and out of, especially with international events.
But I do want to go back to you playing soccer, and your bond with your dad, it sounds like, stems from, one, your mutual love for the Seahawks, but also that you spent a lot of time together in the car while he drove you to practice and to games. And I think there's always a connection to the beautiful game. What drew you to soccer in the first place?
We grew up at a really young age. I've been thinking about that now because my son is 2 and he's a little ball, and I'm like, dang, he's got kind of nice little first touch there. And I've been asking around, and people were like, he's too young, right?
Don't specialize too soon.
I know. But then my friends whose kids do play at a young age, that whole thing with youth soccer seems crazy and very intimidating. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go down that path, especially out here in California. But for me, like we grew up traveling all over the world or moving a lot because my dad was in the military. So it was really, really important for me and my brother to not only start playing soccer at a young age, but to keep playing it because it was just how I made friends when we moved. I mean, I lived in so many different cities, but I could always make friends playing soccer and joining a new team. And then, something my brother did, so I did it, to be honest, which is, he's a year and a half older than me. He was really good from a really young age. So I just wanted to do everything he did. We were always outside together playing, practicing. He was teaching me stuff when I was really young. I bailed around college and I really missed it for a while, but obviously I was never like that good. So
don't sell yourself short. I know that the car rides with my dad to trainings Like I will hear a 90s country song or go past a McDonald's and it'll just take me back to like an early Saturday morning where my dad would go through the drive-thru and he'd get a coffee for himself and an orange juice for me. And then we'd drive to some random place in the Midwest to play a game. And I'm just wondering, is there something to this day that you see or you hear or you taste and it kind of takes you back to those moments?
Yeah. We used to always get like El Pollo Loco after games. That's so weird that you asked. I haven't thought about that. Now in California, we have them. And whenever I like smell it, I'm like, it does remind me. Also, even through high school, because for a while I was doing, both club soccer and high school soccer at the same time. I mean, I was burning like 8 zillion calories a day. So I was just like a freaking dumpster. Like I was just eating so much El Pollo Loco. And that was something I really had to unlearn after I stopped playing soccer. And I realized, oh, right, when you no longer burn 2,000 calories a day, you can't eat 2,000 calories a day. But I have a lot of memories with my dad, especially, driving around. And yeah, it was a lot of driving, we were traveling to different states and things like that, where we would just eat whatever we could on the road, I guess. So that brings me back for sure.
Oh yeah, ours was always Steak and Shake. I don't know if you've ever
Steak and Shake.
Yeah, okay, because it's kind of like a Midwest thing. Some people have never heard of it before.
I know Steak and Shake.
Well, you said you quit playing soccer before college. You went and studied at Yale. You graduated summa cum laude with an English degree. And Mina, we have a lot in common. I also studied English in college, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it for a job. I just knew I loved reading. I loved finding themes and writing essays. And I was just kind of hoping, like maybe foolishly, that I would find a job that would allow me to keep doing that. I tried student teaching. It was not for me. I kind of knew that right away. What brought you and why did you decide to be an English major?
When did you do all of this? Like when were
in college? I was in a master's program. I thought I was going to become a teacher.
Like a generational soccer dad. Like what? Like what?
No.
Where you're like, oh yeah, I also have to get a job. Like what?
Yeah, it was like before the professional league. Another iteration of the professional league had started. So I was like, oh no, I need to make some money. And then quickly realized that was not how I was going to make money.
That's kind of like a tangent, but like early NFL, people don't know this, but like in the 80s, like players had second jobs, were like realtors and like did stuff on the side because they just had to find ways to make money. Now it's crazy to think about that with the NFL, but it's just the idea of like you being a student teacher is very funny to me.
It was funny because I was terrible.
Dude, I tried teaching actually one summer. I had an internship at like in the Baltimore area, and I kid you not, probably the worst teacher that they had ever had, which is something I'm really confronting now with the toddler, just so bad at disciplining children, which is really like a lot of teaching at that.
It's so much of it.
Young children. And I just had zero control. But I loved reading and writing always. Like I loved it from when I was a kid. It was like I had to like beg to go to the library. I was that kind of nerd. And then when I went to college, I just knew I loved reading and writing. I wasn't quite sure what I would do with it. I tried, in addition to the disaster teaching internship, I had a book publishing internship that I was also not great at. And then I had a journalism internship. It was my last one in college at a magazine called Fortune Small Business. And I really liked it. And I liked writing and I liked reporting, just learning about finance, picking up the phone, calling people, doing that. So it kind of felt like, all right, this is something I can use my English degree for and kind of like it. I didn't know what kind of journalism I wanted to do necessarily, but that just happened to be what I got a job in. So it became my job. And that was how I got started on the path of being a reporter.
I know. I feel like you're kind of underselling yourself because you wrote profiles for Fortune magazine. You did investigative pieces for Bloomberg News. You won numerous accolades along the way, and you still made time to write more personal essays on your Tumblr page. And I really feel like I missed out on Tumblr. I mean, I did not come from a very technologically advanced family, so I never had a page or really explored, but I really do feel like I missed out. And I'm wondering, why was it important to you to have a writing outlet outside of your actual job?
There's really only one thing that I wrote, actually, but it's how it's kind of set in motion, the chain of events that led me to what I do now, which is like very bizarre. I don't know, you ever seen that meme where it's like the guy putting the domino and then it goes to like anyways, that's what it's kind of crazy. So I was an investigative reporter, which was something I also kind of stumbled backwards into, and was really rewarding but really hard. It was a lot of getting yelled at by lawyers and trying to get documents, things like that. And I did that at Fortune magazine, and then I did it at Bloomberg News. But while I was doing that, I was obsessed with football, which dates back to childhood for me. And one day I remember I was just like on a plane trip from some reporting trip for a business story. And I wanted to just like write something for myself about football and how it had kind of brought my dad and I close together again. So I just kind of sat down, wrote it, posted it, didn't think of anything about it. And then these editors at Slate asked to repost it. And then these people, editors at ESPN, saw it, which was kind of like a big pivot point in my life because, I don't know, I'd already kind of built this established career. It felt risky. I was worried about like starting over in a way, but I figure you only get so many chances to do what you love for a job. And so I took it, and yeah, and then that ultimately led to me doing what I do now at ESPN.
I want to give the essay a little bit more love, and it's titled Papas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Niners Fans. And you take readers through your relationship with your dad as a young kid to eventually really loving sports and his love for sports and forming a bond over that joint obsession with the Seahawks. And it did remind me so much of my own relationship with my father and how soccer was the thing that we bonded over when I was young and then became the thing that we shared as I got older. And I'd call home and they'd put me on speaker and my mom would be asking me a question about, oh, how's so-and-so doing? Or did you text your brother happy birthday? And my dad would inevitably interrupt with some sort of question about training or the game or like, did you hear so-and-so is going to this team? And my dad was not an athletic guy and he definitely didn't understand the game beyond the basics. But I came to realize that he actually would search things for us to talk about because it was the thing that kind of connected us. Yeah. And it seems like that nostalgia and the feeling that that essay evoked like really moved people, especially the people at Slate and ESPN, like you said, that offered you the job. Were you really excited to make that jump?
Yeah, I was. And I think what I certainly learned was actually it wasn't that big of a jump when I went from being a business journalist to being a sports writer, because I was just writing. Like I had to learn, how do I get access to athletes? How do I talk to agents and teams? But like, you know, that's easy. The fundamentals of the job were the same, which was reporting, interviewing, writing stories, right? The bigger change, which I didn't realize at the time by far, was when I pivoted again from being a writer to being an analyst, which is what I do now, which is a totally different job, much riskier, much more unusual for somebody with my identity to be doing, all of it just wildly different. And that was a much bigger leap than going from actually just writing about one thing to another, though I didn't know it at the time.
Talking about identity, I mean, you entered a new scene when you started working for ESPN because in addition to the magazine articles, you were contributing to their radio shows, podcasts, segments on their daily TV programs like Around the Horn, First Take, Pardon the Interruption. And sports broadcast is such a fascinating industry to me because half of us are former athletes or coaches giving analysis through our lens of experience from living the sport. There never seems to be a problem when a byline of a sports article is a woman's name, but some people are up in arms when they see women on TV talking about sports, thinking that we are somehow ill-equipped to be talking about men's sports when we're often as experienced and as qualified to be talking about men's sports as our male counterparts. And it's something we deal with a lot in the soccer broadcasting world as well. When you first started making those radio and TV appearances, was there someone or something that you leaned on for guidance and support?
Yeah, the thing that helped me the most early on and helps me to this day was building relationships with the former players who I'm on camera with. It's the foundation of, I would argue, my career, but also the shows that I'm on is they are selling me to the audience as much as I'm selling myself. When you watch NFL Live, for example, and again, we've been doing this for 6 years, they ask me questions. They agree with me. When they disagree with me, it comes from a place of respect, but there's like a dialogue. Viewers see that they respond to it. I mean, so often with sports media and games as well, viewers are really taking their cues from announcers and whatnot in terms of like, how do they think about what's happening? And I think that's really true of the studio shows that I'm on. And so what you don't see is like all the work behind the scenes of building those relationships, those friendships. Like NFL Live, when they rebooted the show and with our current crew, I had developed relationships already with a bunch of those guys through just like texting about football for years. So that was massive for me, continues to be massive, quite frankly. But it was especially massive early on when I didn't feel like I belonged. I was constantly questioning whether or not viewers would, accept me or respect me. Winning like over those guys. And, the other thing I always tell people always ask, like, oh, you must get so much like blowback and deal with so much. And I always say, like, not from the people I'm on TV with. And also not from, by the way, coaches and players who I actually have great mutual respect. It's only from like listeners and viewers. But yeah, those relationships are massive, massive for a woman like me on TV.
Yeah, I always think like game recognizes game. And at the end of the day, if you know your stuff, you know your stuff.
I try to remember that too, because like if I get too upset by, misogyny or whatever, honestly, now it's like it's crazy on the internet. I really try to remember, like the old adage, don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't take advice from. I always try to like center myself by like, okay, whose opinions do I actually care about? Like, why am I so upset about this person, saying like this awful thing about me or whatever, when I just got a text from an NFL coach asking me a question, like, or I'm having conversations with these former players who I work with every day. And I think it's like something we all kind of have to wrestle with, especially if you're public facing, just because with the internet, you have access to so many opinions. You have to be like very discriminating about the opinions you actually let enter your mind.
In addition to representing women in sports broadcasting, you also represent the Asian community. Two things the NFL lacks, women and Asian Americans. And so your presence means so much to fans, both young and old, who, rarely get the chance to see themselves represented on TV, especially in sports. What does it mean to you to carry that honor of representation?
One of my biggest thrills is when a young Asian American man or woman tells me, hey, like, I see you on TV and I thought maybe I could do this too, right? And it actually, it's a lot of boys too, which is so cool, because you're right, like it is something we don't see a lot of. Forget as an analyst, just anywhere in sports television. What's crazy, and again, this actually kind of echoes what I was saying earlier about the league being more progressive than, or open-minded than a lot of fans, is actually there's so many players and coaches now who are really proud of their Asian identity. And I've been able to like kind of become friendly with some of them because of that, because, they're Korean and they see like Kyler Murray is the quarterback of the Cardinals. He's Korean. He sees me advertising Korean. He reaches out, like things like it's a really cool moment, I think, in the NFL for players of Asian heritage. And like, it is really, really gratifying to see young Asian football fans be able to like respond to that and be able to look up to them and to reach out to me as well.
You had a particularly poignant moment in April when you responded to a comment on your Instagram that said the only reason that you were at ESPN was because you were a DEI hire. And I think due to the dismantling of DEI initiatives all over the country and the rhetoric that's been used to convince the public that it's needed, I feel like people have lost the understanding of DEI's purpose. And I was hoping that you would share what you said in that post with our listeners, because I thought it was a really lovely reminder of what makes DEI so important.
Thank you. Yeah, I get called DEI now as a slur every day, so it's like all day, constantly. So like it kind of, I barely even notice it. It doesn't like register anymore. But when that happened, or when I made that post, I don't know. I think I don't remember. I think I was in Green Bay for the draft, and I was just kind of passing away time on my phone, and it was like the usual, like some guy calling me DEI. And I decided to respond to it. I have no idea why. I was just bored. I wanted to convey to people what it means to me not to be, when people use it as a slur, but what I think when I hear the term and how it's been misconstrued. Like, so, I told you my career story, right? Like, which was that I was a business journalist, and folks at ESPN reached out to me, and they reached out to me because they thought I was good and they liked the writing and they saw that I was a football fan and I had won these awards in journalism. But they also liked the idea of bringing in a diverse viewpoint in hopes that they could get different stories, better stories. And I say diverse in every sense of the word: different identity, different gender, different race, but also different career background. I think all of those things appealed to them. And whenever people say, well, how do we get more women in sports media, whether it's writing or as analysts, the truth is sometimes you have to think outside the box to find those people. And you can end up finding people who are like incredibly qualified, but just haven't been part of the networks that we usually tap into. And I honestly think that's what happened with me. And that's what the point I wanted to make, right? Which is, not that I was like a quote unquote DEI hire in the derogatory sense that it's being used, but rather that people at ESPN tried to think outside of the box. And I'd like to think that it was a success for them. So that's what it should mean, and that's what it actually means. And I think it's just been distorted and perverted by people who just want to use it as a slur.
Yeah, that's so well said. We are so much better for bringing in more minds and diverse perspectives on anything. You launched the Mina show featuring Lenny back in 2018. And the show seems so comfortable for you with Lenny on your lap, reading your script, that's all your own. You blend the analytics with your storytelling so well. And I'm wondering, when you're figuring out your scripts for each episode, do you feel like your storytelling roots as a writer have more room to shine? Like, is this where you're flexing your English major degree?
Less so for my podcast and more so for when I'm on television because, podcast is all kind of off the cuff. I'm working off of notes, which are based on stats. I do a lot of stats work. And then like when I actually have tape to watch, I'm watching the tape and taking notes. And what I do going into every week for my podcast is I put together matchup reports, which is because I'm talking about all the games. But when I'm on TV, I do like to take time to think through, like, how am I going to convey this thought? And while I'm not writing it down per se, I think through it almost like I used to think when I was telling a story. Like, okay, how can I tell this with a beginning, middle, and end? How can I convey this succinctly? Maybe I'll think in advance of like an anecdote or an analogy, or think about like a moment from a game. So I think the through line, sort of to answer your question, from being a journalist, is like organizing and synthesizing thoughts and then communicating them to readers. But the difference is I have like 1.5 minutes to make the point. And,
pressure.
And someone in my ear saying, go, 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 whatever. But yeah, I think the communication aspect is the same.
I have to admit, I also listened to your Viewer Discretion podcast about the season 7 Love Island reunion final, because I am a big fan of Love Island. And watching the reunion special, I was also very disappointed with that whole thing.
I was like, I can't believe I watched this whole season. It's so awful. I feel like this season was like dystopian or something.
Oh.
It was just like too much. I don't know.
There was a lot going on.
I think that show, and this is true of a lot of things in society, it's too internet driven now. I think like it's the tail is wagging the dog. Like the fans are almost like manipulating the show in a way.
Too much power.
And they're also, the people on the show are catering to the internet. It's like two through the looking glass or something. I don't know. It's very, I can't believe it's so many episodes. I'm like,
we spent a lot of hours watching that for a bad reunion.
One summer when I was pregnant, I was just like, I just burning through old Love Islands. 2023.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I am pregnant, and that was my morning routine, is like turning on Love Island and eating breakfast. It's something I look forward to every morning.
When's your due date, if you don't mind me asking?
Early October.
Oh, okay. So my son was born September 27th, which was,
wow.
So I was extremely pregnant in the most uncomfortable time of year to be pregnant, which, God bless you. Like, it's just, yeah. But yeah, when he's born, I had never, I don't know your experience is like this, but I had never taken off work for like, I just had never not worked, and it was so hard for me to not work when he was born, not when I was, because I didn't go on leave until so bad. I worked until the day I gave birth.
The day?
I induced, and I worked until literally the day before I induced, and then I went to the hospital the next day. And people couldn't tell because I was on camera. I was just like, whoa. I actually hid my pregnancy. Like, I didn't tell anyone until I was 7 months pregnant. And I think people just thought I was fat. But anyways, when he was born, I just didn't know what to do with myself, because I was like, you have to take time off. You literally have to. You're feeding this child. You're keeping him alive. You're barely sleeping. And so I just was like, I had all these visions, like, I'm going to read so many books. And of course, I just watched like 5 seasons of Love Island.
Yeah, totally.
It was crazy. I didn't know what to do.
I mean, I'm like already imagining my life getting turned upside down with trying to manage a broadcast career, some podcasts, raising a kid. So I'm kind of imploring you if you could share with me some of the wisdom that you've gleaned over the last 2 years and how you find the balance now of keeping the wheels of your career on track while embracing the joy and effort of raising your son.
Well, childcare help has been massive in our house. So I fear that's the first answer always. I'm very lucky that it's the extreme privilege of having a lot of help, with my son. I definitely would not be able to do this without, and that includes my husband as well, who's just fantastic. But it also like childcare help, my nanny, who basically taught me how to do most mothering type things because I was just woefully inexperienced at that. The thing I will say is every month from the moment he was born was easier than the month before. I always just want to tell people who are about to advocate that because I think like sometimes people tell you like, no, your newborn phase is the best. I did not think that. And my experience was, I would not to say it was so horrible, but just every month got a little bit easier.
Yeah, I feel like the best advice that I've gotten is like, trust your own instinct. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I have good instincts then, I guess.
You'll figure it out. I mean, total dummies do it. That's the thing I would always tell myself. I know you feel like.
I imagine that you've already trained your son to be a Seattle Seahawks fan, so American football is covered, and we've already established that your mom and brother are huge Tottenham Hotspur fans. Is your son going to follow in their footsteps and be a Spurs fan? Or are you going to keep, hopefully, that closer to home with teams like LAFC and Angel City?
I'd like to do both LAFC and Angel City just because I want him to be able to go to the games. And I definitely want him to play soccer. And I think he's already shown the instincts, as I alluded to. The soccer culture here is really cool. So, I think I'd like him to do that. The Seahawks thing, though, actually, I've got some competition because my in-laws are all Eagles fans, which is like a way more successful and fruitful.
A better time.
Yeah, I'm like, they send him Eagles stuff too. Like he has like all this Eagles gear and whatnot. But he thinks all sports though are basketball, just because I think like during the NBA finals, I let him watch TV, so he just points to the TV and says basketball, and he thinks the iPad is Elmo and the TV is basketball, and those are the only two forms of entertainment that exist at the moment.
Do you see yourself in a few years' time driving him to practice and quizzing him on capital cities of countries like your dad did with you?
Oh no, I was gonna say, maybe, but I was gonna say I'm gonna be like a ruthless soccer mom, and whatever sports he plays, I'm gonna be a freaking menace on the side. It's gonna be so hard for me to like be chill, I guess, about it.
Really?
I'm gonna try. I don't know. I can't help. I'm so competitive. I don't know. That's the other thing I'm really trying to do is like dial down any like alpha-ness about like milestones and development. And my husband is so good as a calming force in that regard. I'm always like, he should be able to. And my husband's like, he's two. It's fine. Relax. And I'm like, maybe we're not doing enough, and motor skills and whatever. It's good to have like a yin and yang at home, I think, if you have that going on.
For sure. I mean, I would go to my nieces and nephews' games, and I sit very quietly and watch.
I'm not talking
at
they all know
all.
you're there, and they're just like.
I mean, but my brother, who I never would have expected, is just constantly talking to his daughter about where she should be and to keep running around. And I'm like, bro, you don't know anything about soccer. Like, what you're saying is not good advice.
I love that he has the confidence to do it in front of you. Forget the other like parents and coaches. I mean, I just think, imagine being like a coach and you're like, I'd be so afraid to say anything if you were on the sideline. I'd be like, it's children, I mean, when when they're really young, you're just like, go like.
Have fun.
Herd, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This has been so great. I only have a few more questions for you. So with the NFL kicking off, you're about to enter the busiest time of your year, but very possibly your favorite time. What is one thing about the NFL season that makes you feel like a kid again? Like you're back watching the Seahawks with your dad?
Well, the thing about the NFL is it turns over so much that you're constantly having a new batch of players who are really exciting and really impactful very quickly. So it's just like thrilling. Also, teams can turn around very quickly, right? I think that's one thing that makes the sport really unique. So you can go from being last place to first place in a couple of years. So like kind of hope springs eternal for NFL fans. Every year is like a fresh start. And I find that exciting because, we expect like the same teams to be good, but there's always surprising teams and players. So I just get like excited by like the new blood. And the sport itself is changing constantly. It's really, this is the thing I love about football and I love about analyzing is you could spend a lifetime and you still would constantly be surprised. And I talked to a coach, the sport changes. It's so complicated. There's so many moving pieces. The way it's taught and the way it's coached and managed is constantly changing, informed by analytics and technology. It's just the most fun thing in the world to cover because it's constantly changing. And you never ever have like true mastery of anything, which is, I think, pretty cool.
I was born and raised in Missouri, so I had an NFL team in the St. Louis Rams before they moved to LA. And I can feel myself, shopping around for a team, and I was leaning towards supporting the Chiefs. They're really good,
yeah,
but I don't really want to be a bandwagon fan. And I've been living in the Pacific Northwest for over a decade now, so I could be swayed to switch allegiances. I was wondering if you could give me your elevator pitch as to why I should be a Seattle Seahawks fan.
Where in the Northwest do you live? In
Portland.
It's the Portland area. Okay. There's a lot of Seahawks fans in Portland, obviously. So that's, I think, one of the most fun things about being an NFL fan is the community aspect of it. There's nothing better than, obviously, with your families, as we've been talking about, that shared fandom of any sport is I think, one of the true things that makes people love sports. But also, there's nothing better than like you'll be walking in Mexico City if you're wearing a Seahawks hat, you see someone else wearing a Seahawks hat, and that little like nod, or or if you're at a sports bar in Portland, everybody's rooting for Seattle together, and just getting to immediately be a part of that and like feel that shared joy and disappointment and the screaming and the cheers. And that's I think the most fun part about being a sports fan, not what I do, which is like watching it in a dark room with multiple screens and nobody around and like taking notes. But I think for you to be in Portland, it would be really, really fun to be able to like be a part of that community. It's also like a great fan base too. I actually think the Seahawks have one of the best fan bases in the NFL. They're really passionate. They're really educated, but they're like pretty chill. Honestly, it's not too intense. So it'd be a fun thing to do as a family. It's less like, it's not like, there's some more aggressive fan bases out there. I won't name them. So I think, it'd be fun as well. Like it's a thing you could do as a family. Put it that way.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Mina, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So we like to end our show by asking our guests what you've currently been nerding out on. And it can be a piece of art or a song or a book series, like anything that's really piqued your interest. So right now, what are you nerding out on?
I am watching the show Alien Earth, which I feel like definitely qualifies as nerdy.
Yes.
I love it. I love science fiction. I love alien movies. I love alien stuff in general. And I think this show has been really good. It's by the same guy. It sounds like who made Fargo, which I also really loved, the Fargo series.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's doing a really great job. I've been dying laughing. There's a scene, this is not a spoiler because it's given away in the very first episode, where the woman who's the captain of the ship is running away from the alien, and she's like running in slow motion, and the alien is going 60 miles an hour, and it doesn't make any sense that he can't.
It never does.
But yeah, right. It is like a throwback to the movies, but I'm loving it. I love that little eye alien.
Oh gosh,
so creepy.
Yeah, that one's creepy. That one creeps me out a lot, especially this last episode because it's a lot smarter than I thought it was.
Yeah, that's why I love it. I'm like, ooh, what does it want? What is it like? What's its incentive? I don't know. I think it's so good. I love alien stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are, like I said before, we have a lot in common because I also love sci-fi and I also love Alien Earth, and that was the thing that I've been nerding out on. So
maybe don't watch Alien right before you give birth. That's all I'll say.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really put that together, but yeah, that's probably too close for home.
Yeah, it really is remarkably realistic.
Oh, gosh. And with that, Mina, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you too. Well, I certainly didn't need the mental comparison of an alien chestburster to childbirth, but there we go. We probably could have filled half this podcast talking about our love for science fiction, why English teachers are special people, and why advanced stats are so cool. She has more than earned her membership to the Nerd Squad, but on a more serious note, I really appreciated her answer on who she relies on as a woman navigating a career in a very male-dominated space. It's a reminder of why allyship is so important. In the pod, I mentioned that one of the best pieces of advice I've received about pregnancy and child rearing is to trust my own instinct, and Mina agreed. I've been worried that maybe I just have defective instincts. Up until I was at IKEA with my partner Zola the other day, we were picking up the last pieces of furniture we wanted for the nursery, and I hadn't experienced that nesting instinct that I had read so much about. But for the life of me, I could not find the right storage bins to hold the myriad of crap a baby needs. And I was on a mission. Nothing was the right size, the right texture, the right color. And Zola, bless his heart, just followed me around, wisely not saying anything, as I picked up at least 50 storage bins and immediately set them back down with just a look of disgust. I did eventually find the right organizers, and now when I walk into the nursery, some part of my mind just thrills at the sight of those stupid bins. So that's what I nerded out on this week. IKEA bins. Let us know what you're nerding out about right now. Email us at teamingup@meninblazers.com and join our nerd squad. Our quirky community is growing, and we're so glad to have you along for the journey. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with more next week.